You can't just do the fancy stuff. If you don't do the blocking and tackling and you don't make a lot of small decisions every day, I'm not quite sure how that you can do it. And I got to tell you, those are the things I probably need to work on the most. I think I'm probably a little bit better at the other stuff. So I want to focus every day on, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and you got to do the little things. And if you don't, it's kind of like all these cliches, but retail is detail.
Today, I'm joined by Todd Blue, dealer principal of Mercedes-Benz of Northern Arizona and CEO of LAPIS. The luxury market is shifting fast and dealers are trying to figure out how to stand out while staying disciplined as cycles tighten. Todd breaks down how to add real value to underperforming stores, why high-touch customer interaction still matters, and how dealers should think about debt, risk, and long-term sustainability. For anyone navigating growth in a luxury environment, his perspective is a masterclass in strategy and restraint. A big thank you to our sponsors for making this episode possible: FullThrottle.ai, Uber for Business, and CDG Circles. And now let's get into the show. Todd Blue on the CDG podcast. Todd, welcome.
How are you, Yossi? Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on.
It's an honor to have you. Todd the Stod. That's didn't rhyme, but I try my best.
It's funny you say that. I probably still kind of hate my name. My whole name, Todd Blue, is 2 syllables. I wish it was like something like Hamilton Jordan or something like that, but it's Todd Blue.
Come on, but that's good. When you were doing like the standardized testing in high school, you probably were the first one to fill the bubbles.
Actually, I just filled them out, and that's why I did so poorly in school. I made an art project out of it, but
Oh my God. Well, look, you're now a successful dealer, so I'll take it. Yeah. Todd, are you one of the guys that has the license plate, like 2.0 GPA, driving like a $200,000 Porsche?
I used to have, I'm putting this in quotes, vanity plates, but I got rid of all vanity plates, and now I just have plain old dealer plates. So anyway.
Okay.
I'm good.
You can have a dealer vanity plate too, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So we can start with my infamous "tell me about the picture behind you" question, but we'll save that for later.
Okay.
When my brain needs a rest.
Yeah.
We'll start with something more juicy. I have to imagine you were just at the Mercedes meeting in Vegas.
Oh, great question.
I
Loved it. Want to know more?
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So I had a couple of dealers text me, and they're like raving about Mercedes. Like, more bullish than I've ever been on the brand.
Yeah.
And so I did what I do naturally, which is, send a message to, Adam Chamberlain and say, Adam, I have FOMO and you need to come on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Adam, for those who don't know, is the CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA. And so I think he responded like, thank you or something. Like, he didn't actually give a full thought response. So Adam, if you're listening to this or if someone sends you this, would still love to have you on. I'm sure it was just an afterthought because we've had a conversation in the past, but I was like, the first thing I wanted to ask you was like, hey, like, tell me about it. Like, whatever you can share. How do you feel after that event? What did you see? Like, tell us about that.
So first of all, you go to these meetings sometimes and like you're just falling asleep and you're exhausted and they're too long. Very, very succinct, well done meeting. Obviously, Vegas is even harder to keep people awake and things like that. And it was great. They were focused. They were on point. They were goals driven. And I think the dealers in the meeting, I mean, you think about that meeting, especially kind of as I'm re-entering this industry again and a first time Mercedes dealer, and you're in the room and you've got the Penske people and you've got the Cantanucci people and Fletcher Jones and Ken Schnitzer and the Price family and Ray Catina's group and Mario Morgado. You have legends in that room. And I asked myself just first being there, I'm like, how am I going to re-enter this business and make a difference? And we could talk about that later, or what's my goal or what's my niche, but very specifically on your, question, I thought they hit right on the money. They have goals. They're focused on major growth. They understand and have acknowledged, never heard this before, maybe stumbles in the past. Those are my words, not theirs, on stumbles. I think they have, it's a fact. It's not anything unusual about the electrification and the things they've done to correct that or autocorrect that. The new team is noticeably energized. I didn't not get along with the old team, but these guys are hungry, focused, have something to prove, have experience. I mean, you have leaders in a OEM company in America, but most of the leadership has worked in retail, or many of them. Then you have, incredible marketing and sales and marketing and other things. And they've just put it all together. So that's my overlay. And then we can obviously talk about details. Happy to talk about what I can talk about, but I give it an A++ of a meeting.
Oh,
for sure. And I think I'm going to say that the dealers might have been unanimous about that.
yeah, I didn't hear it was okay. It seemed people really, they did something right, because people came out energized and not like phony energized, like has happened with certain other OEMs, but rather they truly believe that the brand is, going to do the right thing. So what do you, from your perspective, what do you think right now can be done differently, better for the brand? I don't want to monopolize the conversation around Mercedes, because I think there's a lot more we could talk about your operating style, which, based on what I read, is an interesting, unique one. But I'm just curious, what do you think Mercedes, what type of shifts do you think could, continue to improve the brand?
Yeah. So first of all, obviously tariffs have been, will be a continuing discussion. Mercedes has what I would describe as a leg up. I think BMW is sitting equally probably strong, and companies like Honda and Toyota probably as well, where they have a significant component of U.S. manufacturing. Remember, Mercedes and BMW are the largest exporters of vehicles in the United States. So I'm not here to advertise either one of those companies. I'm just saying because of that, it gives them some strength. And I think they are in healthy dialogue. I don't know for sure, but I would perceive they're in healthy dialogue with the administration to see how they can be a better partner with the United States of America and, do what they can to find the right complement. So that's kind of geopolitical. But then basically, product and the pipeline that's coming is the biggest onslaught of new product. This is for, quite frankly, Mercedes dealers and our customers in probably Mercedes history, from SUVs and sedans and plenty of ICE vehicles. And yes, some great electric, and that's okay too. And then obviously hybrid. So I think, I'm not going to give or not give Toyota credit, but they're taking a playbook, and they didn't say this, I'm saying it, that they are not going to just stick with one powertrain. You're going to be able to buy a vehicle in the not so distant future and have any powertrain you want, which I love. I think the consumer should make the decision. I think Mercedes has heard that, and that is what they're doing. So I'm excited about that.
That's a good perspective, because when I think about them hiring Adam from Lithia, and Lithia being a retailer,
yep,
and Mercedes being a manufacturer, and put yourself in Adam's shoes, or imagine I'm a fly, in that boardroom when they're talking about him, and making that hire. Well, he has personally felt the impact of, having the wrong product and trying to retail that. And so it seems like, this is someone that, as they say, he ate his own dog food. I mean, he drank the Kool-Aid. I probably butchered those analogies, but the point is he was there on the front lines trying to sell product that did not sell or did sell. And so putting him in that position, he has a very keen understanding of it seems like, right, what the market really wants and what consumers, demand, not just, these, someone that's not acquainted with reality on the ground floor.
Without equivocation. I mean, think about it. The best attorneys that are in the courtroom were prosecutors. The best defense attorneys were formerly prosecuting attorneys every time.
That.
And I think, Adam has sat in both chairs genuinely, legitimately. He's been in multiple manufacturers. He's been in retail. I'm just going to call, he's a handsome guy. He's eloquent. He's a great presentation for the brand, and he's smart and he's hungry and he has something to prove. And by the way, I think it's good to have something to prove. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great. And he's built and is building a team around him of new people that he's brought in, and guys like Greg Gates. And he's also, got a wonderful group with people like Bart and Melody and others, that are already existing, seasoned, terrific team members that, by the way, even those people, I mean, think about Melody. She's got, furniture, cosmetics, multiple manufacturer brands, and she's at Mercedes. So I love the team that Mercedes has put together because they've been other places, and it's not a myopic way to look at things. And so I just love what he's creating. And look, we all have headwinds, and this industry has some inertia coming against it. And so I'm really excited about where Mercedes is going.
This episode is brought to you by FullThrottle.ai. FullThrottle.ai is the first and only automotive DSP built just for the auto industry. Launch campaigns in under 2 minutes, reach real in-market shoppers, and track results all the way to the sale. This is the AdTech easy button for automotive advertising you've been waiting for. To learn more, visit FullThrottle.ai and see how smart your media can really be. Again, that's FullThrottle.ai, or click the link in the show notes below.
Very cool. So Todd, you alluded to this earlier, but, and I'm going to bust your chops here, but you're the only dealer that doesn't like money, because you got out of the business in 2020 and got back into the business a couple years after that. So you skipped that entire period of time.
Yeah.
But I'm just busting your chops.
No.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. I think it's important. Like, you had a large group here, like, almost, 24 stores or 18, 20 stores. So just give us the background. How did you get into the business? You grew quickly. Why did you sell? Like, kind of bring us present day.
Yeah, sure. So, was in other industries. We can come back to the painting behind me, which is sort of related to that. And
wait, let's start there actually. So tell me, what industries were you in?
Okay, so I was in heavy industry, kind of mostly in the aggregate. I've been in fast food and other things, but mostly in heavy industry, which includes steel mill service, metals trading, scrap metal, and railroad car service, parts, remanufacturing, and recycling. I bought that business with my brother and then sold it to a public company eventually. This is a long time ago. And so, the painting behind me actually is, to not only not forget where I came from, but also it's kind of a railroad car with a hole in it and looking up to the sky, basically, so that I'm motivated every day to say, there's no limit where you want to go, but don't forget where you came from. So that's what kind of that is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love the analogy. And then, so let's fast forward from there. How do we get to cars?
Yeah. So I've been in YPO since 2003, which is Young Presidents Organization.
Yep.
And back in the day, YPO had, and still has, they have networks. So they have real estate, they have restaurants, they have other, and they actually still do have automotive. But in the early days of YPO, and when they were connecting YPO with their digital and internet systems, they had networks. And so I'm not joking. This is literally how I got in the car business. I was a collector, and then I was a buyer and seller of post-war European sports cars, mostly Ferraris at the time. And that's how I started in the business. Anyway, I was in YPO for real estate, and I literally filled out a form that said, this is Todd Blue. At the time, my company was called Cobalt Classic Cars. And I said, I'm looking for a Highline store in a tier 1 market. Call this phone number. And I put it in there like an old fashioned classified ad. Like, people today don't even know what classified ads are. It's like, the old newspaper ads that were thin in the bottom of a newspaper, in the back of a newspaper. Anyway, filled that out. I got a phone call from a guy who was also in YPO. He said, hey, I checked you out, and I know of you and what you've done in another industry. And we shared a consultant in Chicago. And he said, you're a nice guy. He said, you'll do what you said you're going to do. And basically, I'm buying these 5 stores in Atlanta. And these were literally his words. And I have this one crappy Porsche store. He said those words, in North Houston. If you want it, I need to know in 3 days. And so I had never really been to Houston. I was in a former industry. I actually had only been to Beaumont, Texas, and you have to fly to Houston and then you drive to Beaumont, which is like 45 minutes south. So I flew to Houston, put a baseball cap and a pair of blue jeans on, secret shopped the store, called him from the airport and said I would take it. He said, no contingencies. I said, well, 2. And he said, none. I said, let me tell you the 2. He said, what are they? I said, environmental. He goes, okay, no problem. And then the second was factory approval. So I had to go through factory approval. And that was a very non-traditional pathway, because when I finally got to the CEO of Porsche Cars North America, they had their hands in their face, shaking their head, saying, I don't know what to do with you. You've never been in the business. But like, they just had a thing and they were like, okay, we're just going to approve you, but you got to do these 3 things, which I did. and we were off to the races. So we took a little teeny Porsche store, and with a great team and some great people with whom I was blessed to be surrounded, I literally learned the car business through the Socratic method of learning by sitting with my team members, my salespeople and service managers, and asking them questions. And they were like, why are you asking me these questions? You're the owner. I'm like, because I don't know. And it was a lovely, lovely pathway. And then we just started buying more stores, and it just and I got lucky on timing too. We had a good run, a good market, and Texas took off before others did. So that's really the beginning of the car business for me.
So you did that 18 times. Is that right? You had 18 stores?
Yeah. So we had, in Houston, I had Porsche, Lamborghini. Then I had open points for Rolls-Royce and McLaren. That's in Houston. It doesn't matter the order of which. And then in Rancho Mirage, California, I bought a Porsche, Audi, Jaguar, Land Rover, Rolls, Bentley, Aston. Eventually McLaren and Lamborghini came with open points. And then at a later date, I bought 2 Porsche stores in St. Louis, Missouri, and consolidated those for Porsche. And then at a later date, went back and bought the BMW store in Palm Springs. Really love that, Rancho Mirage and Palm Springs market. It's a very special place. It's a great place to do business with some great customers.
That's pretty incredible, because you weren't even a dealer and you started with a Porsche store, which is, there are dealers that are in business for 50, 60 years and don't even get a Porsche store, and they dream to get one.
Yeah.
Tell us, what was that like? Like, what years were these? Give us like the time span. And what was that learning process like? Just going from not being a dealer at all to being a luxury dealer. What did you learn on the fly? Like, what were the most important key lessons for you there?
So first of all, I want to answer your Porsche question. Then I want to hop back and then hop forward. So the Porsche question is, remember 2009, Porsche was not the Porsche that we all know of today. It was struggling. It was tough. Everybody was struggling. It wasn't just Porsche, but it wasn't, remember, Cayenne was a few years old and Panamera was brand new. So this whole, kind of normalization that we know today, that you have 4-door cars and that's way more than 50% of the sales that you have, was not even a thing for Porsche. The first bank that actually turned me down when I went to a floor plan said, oh, we're not approving you because Porsche is exotic. That was literally what they said. But to answer your question about luxury and how I did it, so I winged it, to be honest. I'm not going to fake that. I'm going to tell you the truth, but I did get lucky in this sense. So when I was doing the post-war European sports cars, and I had a business mentor named Jim Patterson in Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I'm originally from. He's 92 now. He's an amazing man. He's won Pebble Beach 3 times, and he involved me and got me involved mostly in kind of that Ferrari world of buying and selling post-war European Ferraris. But what I learned was not about Ferraris and serial numbers and the history of the individual cars, but more, the number one thing I learned was how to deal with wealthy people. So I think that was my number one kind of point of differentiation from my competitors. And what I think I offered my customers was a comfortable and familiar place in that world. That's what I would say. And I think that's worked for me. And I continue to live by focusing on that and what I'm trying to do.
Have you ever owned any mainstream brand stores?
So after I sold my business to a European conglomerate, a lovely company and family, we acquired, when I was still CEO for a 3-year period, we acquired a group that included a Volkswagen store. So that was the only time I had what I would call non-luxury. And it was fine. And I would be open to it. I think, as an example, some of these, not just, but I love a few Japanese brands and what they do with their customers. With their dealers, and the connectivity and the support that companies like Toyota and Honda have. It would be wonderful to be in that world again. But I really do believe that, luxury is where I can add value, most importantly to my customers, the communities where I do business.
Do you think that the habits and processes from a luxury store port over well to a non-luxury store, or do you think it's like overkill?
I think it's tough. You had one of my dear and best friends in the world, Howard Tenenbaum, on your...
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Say that.
He's the best. Howard is probably, I'm going to say, one of the best operators in the United States. He is incredible. Wow. He's incredible. And he could operate and own and run any store, but especially not especially because he's great in the Porsche world and he's great. But I mean, his Toyota experience and his Stellantis experience, I'm not here to advertise my dear friend Howard, but I would say that I learn from guys like that who have been in the business their entire lives and the things that he does. I don't think I could ever hold a candle to what he does. I just try to do things differently and do what I can do and run my own race, which as long as I do that, I think I'll be okay. I think if I ever migrated toward those larger import brand or even domestic brands, I would make sure to surround myself with deeply experienced guys in that space. That's the only way I could do it.
Before we get into why you sold, why you got back into the business and didn't move to the Cayman Islands, and laid on the beach, I want to talk about, and I say that like jokingly, but in all seriousness, I am curious about your story there.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably like you. I got to build. I got to keep doing things. Like I can't imagine not building for a day. It makes me happy. When you say I learned how to deal with wealthy people, like what's your method, right? When you say that, I have some ideas of what you mean by that, concierge style, stuff like that. But like, what does that mean to you, how to deal with wealthy people?
Well, first of all, I do think it's impossible in defense of other dealers who maybe don't take this position that, I mean, I give all my customers my cell phone number. I know there are other dealers that do that as well, but I mean, I want to have connectivity. I want to have direct dealer interaction with my customers. And so one would say, well, you can't do that if you have a Chevy store that sells 5,000 units a year. And they may be right. And they probably are right. And so how do you scale a business doing that? So that's one, just as much direct connectivity to my customers as I can. And that's not like a sales pitch. That's legit. And then the other,
and is that your personal number? Is that a Google Voice number?
No, it's my personal, absolutely 100% personal number.
Yeah,
sure.
Do you ever get does it bother you when like you get that like 11 p.m. call, or do they respect you and you don't get that often?
Well, I don't sleep at all. Like, so I sleep about 4 hours a night max. So 11 o'clock to 3 a.m. is probably when I'm sleeping, and I'll probably look at my phone in the middle of the night anyway. But no, I do turn my phone off at night when I sleep during my 4 hours.
Okay.
But
so you set boundaries and let them call you within those boundaries.
Sure. Absolutely. And then the other thing is wealthy people, that buy some of the more, call it super luxury brands that I've been involved with and hope to be involved with in the future. They want access. They want access to you. They want access to the best events. They can afford, they can buy anything. We all know this, but they want really special connectivity to things that can't be purchased, mostly experiential. And then also as generic as your phone number and as good as getting behind the velvet rope at, the coolest, neatest, most unique auto and other events. And in my company name, LAPIS, which is, it stands for a blue rock named, obviously LAPIS is a blue rock, but it's luxury, access, performance, innovation, and service. And that access is not only one of my favorite things in the world personally as an individual, so I can empathize with my customers that want that, but I want to provide that and I want to celebrate that. And I want to be the guy that gets them the most access to the greatest things that no one else can get them. And that makes it fun for me, which translates into fun for them.
This episode is brought to you by Uber for Business. Courtesy transportation is no longer a nice to have. It's a need to have. Last year, we did a poll on our social channels asking our followers how they prefer to get home from a dealership after dropping a car off for service or maintenance. 31% of respondents answered that they preferred an Uber ride. Dealers, give your customers what they want. Courtesy Uber rides. Using Central from Uber for Business, you can request an on-demand ride for your customers even if they don't have the Uber app. Coordinate one-way or round-trip Uber Uber rides, monitor trips in real time, set spend caps, and generate reports in one simple dashboard. Uber for Business is an easy way to provide an experience customers love while also reducing the costs associated with maintaining shuttles and limiting loaner liability. To learn how Uber for Business can help you drive customer loyalty one ride at a time, visit uber.com/CDG Auto today to learn more, or visit the link in the show notes below.
So what do you do at your stores when you say access? Like, how do you provide access to your customers? What type of events or what type of special, things do you like offer in your stores to scratch that itch for your customer and keep them coming back?
So I do think it depends on the brand. So we'll offer anything to all of our customers for all of our brands. Right now, I currently have Mercedes-Benz of Northern Arizona, but in a previous life, I obviously had every luxury and exotic brand. And I think different customers want different things. So as an example, maybe a G-Wagon customer might want things that are different than a C-Class customer because they just do. And so we want to try to meet and exceed those expectations. But when you get into the exotic brands, whether it's Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Aston, McLaren, whatever those brands are, I think that customer has every ability to purchase whatever they want to buy. And so you can offer them obviously some of the very simple things like extra special opportunities to go to Monterey Car Week or Villa d'Este in Lake Como for car events. That's if they want to do car events, or access to the factories, and take them yourself. Like I want to take my customers myself, 5 of them at a time, to whatever factory we're going to. Take them to auctions, get them behind the scenes, have them meet drivers, do different things that are obviously in the automotive space. And then that can be extended to, a network that all of us or some of us may have, whether that's professional athletes and celebrities, depending on where you are, and give them, a really special, unique experience. But in the end, they really just want to know that you're there for them. Give them a great vehicle, give them exactly what they want. Maybe obviously going back to paint to sample and leather to sample, and in Mercedes' case, manufacturer, or in Ferrari's case, tailor-made, or in Porsche's case, CXX, and really make sure that you know those programs intimately yourself if you're really going to involve yourself. If you don't, no problem that you have your salesmen know it. They have to know it anyway. But I think it brings a lot of credibility that the dealer has lived in that world, has touched that world, has been a customer, him or herself. Like, last thing I'll say, sorry to be long-winded, is
no, please.
It's tough to get, and it's going to sound snobby, and I do not mean it this way, but it's tough to give or get a Four Seasons hotel experience if you've only stayed in a Holiday Inn. Nothing against Holiday Inn at all, but you, in order to explain that and give that, you have to know what it feels like. It's okay. And it's just calling it like it is.
No, I mean, I think you're trying to serve a certain customer, and you have to know how to serve that customer the right way. Like, I think it makes total business sense. Like you said, and I would also invert that. I think that, if you try to serve someone in a Holiday Inn, like in a Four Seasons, you'll probably go out of business because you will be doing things that don't even pencil.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I mean, you got to align with the customer.
Exactly.
I did also read, though, that you have I saw several times you said the words like back to basics. What does that actually what does that mean in your stores? And what's this principle you live by, back to basics?
Yeah. And by the way, it's hard, and I'm not going to say that it isn't, but blocking and tackling and a lot of small decisions are critical, each and every day. Like, you can't just do the fancy stuff. If you don't do the blocking and tackling and you don't make a lot of small decisions every day, I'm not quite sure how that you can do it. And I got to tell you, those are the things I probably need to work on the most. I think I'm probably a little bit better at the other stuff. So I want to focus every day on, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. And you got to do the little things. And if you don't, it's kind of like all these cliches, but retail is detail. And if you forget that, then you're out.
One of the interesting things that I learned about myself between being a retailer and now, being a media, tech, whatever you want to call it, entrepreneur, we're doing several things here at CDG, some of which we're going to announce shortly. But anyway, so one of the things I learned about myself is where I excel. and where I don't excel. And I can tell you that I don't enjoy, and I'm not the best person at like logistics, zeros and ones. Do I understand it? Sure. Do I want to be all day into logistics and figuring, ops out? Like no, I don't want to do that. And other people can do that way better than me. So I've leaned into what I'm better at, right? Which is like 0 to 1, creativity. That's kind of where I excel now. And so I ask that, or I mention that because I'm curious, when you say that you are trying to get better at that, you also seem to me like someone who's clearly into like self-improvement. You mentioned, you were or are in YPO. So like you're on a peer group. Is that something that you think you need to get better at? Or do you just need to complement yourself with the right person by your side who's good at that while you do you, which again, I'm still getting to know you. I don't know what you're best at. Maybe you're like the visionary who just goes and finds deals and is endearing and people connect with, which is, by the way, an important role. But I'm curious, like, is that, have you thought about it? Have you thought about it that way or?
For sure. I mentioned all those Hall of Fame dealers earlier at the beginning of the call, but there are, new, what I would call soon to be Hall of Famers, whether it's guys like Jeff Swickard, who's been on your show, or Joe Agresti. I'm not sure if you have, who have built these massive, incredibly, beautiful, incredible private groups. And they've done it either because they have those skill sets, or maybe more specifically, they've surrounded themselves with talent. So I need to do both because I have neither. I need to surround myself with good people because I don't have those skill sets, and I know what I know and I know what I don't know. I think the exciting thing for me and for, as I try to build, as I'm recruiting people, the one thing I think I do offer is, I've got good capital. I have low leverage. And I want to build something. And so there's a lot of people out there that are kind of stuck with ceilings on them in organizations. And they hopefully look at a guy like me and say they can align with me and ride it all the way up the way other people have that have worked with me in the past, with other guys. I mean, people have become multimillionaires, many of them working with me. And that's probably the most proud thing that I can say, other than the company that I helped to build with those people. It's kind of like saying whether you like John Calipari or Rick Pitino, the real, other than their national championships are, by the way, John Calipari's from Pennsylvania. He's my guy. Is the real thing to measure someone by is how many, assistant coaches have gone on to be head coaches.
Yeah.
And that's a great measurement, whether John Wooden had Denny Crum or other people along the way made great head coaches. I want to be surrounded people that want to grow with me, but like I'm going to need them for their skill set. So they can't come in and rely upon me. They've got to walk with me hand in hand and do the things I can't do because there's plenty of stuff I cannot do. I can promise you that.
Okay. So that's good. I mean, that's illuminating. And I think that's a great North Star that you mentioned there. I think, people lives you've impacted. Just to wrap up the basics thing. So you said it's something you're getting at, but are there like, when you do say, hey, back to basics in our stores, like what else does that mean to you? Like, how does that really play out in your stores on a daily basis?
Yeah. So back to the basics, we do ongoing education all the time. The other day we had Dave Anderson from Learn to Lead in our stores, but he's just one of the many resources we all can bring in. I'm not advertising for him or anybody else, but I mean, there's incredible resources in this industry and out of this industry to continue to learn. And like I said earlier, I live by the Socratic method of learning. I was never a great student. I'm not a great reader, but I love sitting down with Jeff Swickard or Howard Tenenbaum or watching, and just admiring what guys like Michael Cantanucci and Ken Schnitzer have done with their businesses. And even though some of them may be competitors and you may like or not like some of them, if you ask them questions or learn from them, I've always done a lot better with that than reading a book or studying a manual. That's me. That's not everybody, but conversational and questioning and wrestling with topics, that's my vibe.
I love it. All right. So and I remember now what I wanted to ask you about, which was, why did you sell your business?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So like
2020.
Yeah. No one could have predicted COVID. So like over my left shoulder, which I always want to remember, my dad, thank God, is still alive, is probably my best friend in the world. And I saw him have tremendous ups and downs in his career. We were in a very cyclical business. So in 2020, I'm kind of thinking, I'm having the time of my life. I'm loving this business. I'm living a dream I always wanted to do that I never thought I could do. And I, with my teammates, built a great company that I'm so proud of. And then I said to myself, I was waking up at night, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had so much debt because I grew with debt. And so I'm thinking to myself, which by the way, looking back on it, the amount of debt that I had then is nothing compared to some of these guys today and what they carry. It's mind blowing. But I was like, you know what? I'm nervous. So everybody was calling, trying to buy my business. And I met with all these amazing people, you know, and just kind of took, I believe in another business philosophy, always take the meeting, buying, selling, helping, whatever, always take the meeting. You never know what you could learn. And I met with all the traditional guys. I could tell you who they are, but it's not necessary, but all the traditional normal buyers, and none of that really worked. And then finally the company to whom I eventually sold gave me a number that at the time was a number I couldn't refuse. Now looking back on it, it's arguably no money compared to what businesses sell for today. And that's okay too. And I'm incredibly grateful in general. I'm grateful to God and I'm proud of what we accomplished. So selling was quite frankly out of fear in my vulnerability and the fact that I perceived that I had debt that I was scared about. And I thought we were at the end of a cycle, which arguably we should have been, but then COVID hit and boom. So, you know, you win some, you lose some.
You have something very similar to me where, like I grew up in a household that was like very conservative, financially, and like debt was any form of debt. It's just like, you don't sleep at night.
Right.
And that I can't shake it off. Like I would rather make a decision that some analysts would say is like financially stupid because, you know, oh, you're paying off a low interest rate, but like just having debt, you know, some people have, they're more tolerant to that. I personally, like I struggle with debt. And I see that in you too. Like you mentioned before, I'm not leveraged. I'm, you know, I have capital. It seems like that's something that's stuck with you, throughout your life from what I can tell. And it's totally fine. I mean, I respect it. I'm the same way. But it's interesting. I happen to notice that.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say that like, I am like, I don't look at the sale as anything but a huge positive and an amazing thing and an incredible story that I'm so proud of. I don't look back at all. I don't look at all like saying, oh my gosh, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Now I'm just kind of looking forward saying there's so many exciting opportunities. And as I go, and again, referencing those legends that I mentioned earlier on the call, I go and I'm like, how am I going to be different? What can I do that they're not doing? I don't want to be the same as them. By the way, not because they're not amazing, because they're all incredible, but more what's going to be my niche and how am I going to be different? And that's what I'm constantly focused on. And I'm excited with some of my upcoming acquisitions to be able to do that. And again, I don't want to be everything to everybody. I want to run my own race and I want to take my shots where I take them and build my own pathway and business. And I did that before, and I'm not going to change the process this time either.
Was this a life-changing outcome for you when you sold?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Totally beyond my wildest dreams.
And so between the time period of selling and getting back into the business, what happens?
Yeah.
What do you go through?
Okay. So very interesting. So COVID happened. Now, to be clear, after I finished my employment contract, COVID was boom. So I left the company in July of 20. Do you know what that means? Like that is the heart of it. So literally like, you know, it was going back and forth from Texas to California with my family. And it was like going from Mars to Earth. I mean, there couldn't have been two totally different ways that COVID was handled and the processes. It was amazing. But what I did get was this incredible blessing to hang out with my adult children and my wife and my dogs, which I will never forget. I'll never, ever trade that for billions of dollars, which I did not get, by the way. It was the best time of my life. And so I did that. And by the way, I'm not unhappy to say that. I did also look at businesses. I looked at a fashion business. I wanted to stay only in luxury. I invested in some private clubs and some other things that are all luxury related. And so, I did that kind of stuff. It scratched some itches, but nothing that I was genuinely passionate about. I did grow a car collection, which I'll probably, I'm buying and selling cars in that again. And that was a great life accomplishment, but really I'm a builder. I'm not sure I'm a real lifelong collector. I like to build. I like to build things.
Got it. So you stayed pretty involved, and ultimately, why did you decide to get back into auto retail? What was that kicker for you?
I would just say that, when you sell a business and you do a pie chart and you do the advantages and you do the disadvantages and the upsides and the downsides and this is good. There's elimination of debt and capital and safety and whatever the different reasons are. One thing that at least I left on my pie chart and in my decision thing is, remember, I didn't grow up in the car business. So I wasn't a dealer's son or a GM or a salesman or any of that. And so because of that, I forgot the main reason I got in, which is I love it. And I think loving it definitely translates, especially in luxury and performance and in these unique brands. It definitely translates into, I think, something different than others offer. Doesn't mean I'm better. I'm actually not better. I think all those guys are better than me. And I think they're all better than me, which makes me better every day. Because if I thought I was better than them, then I think that's the kiss of death. So I always think the guys that are up there that I mentioned earlier and many others are better than me. It keeps me hungry, keeps me focused. I continue to learn. And so I'm getting back in because I love it and I missed it. And that's something I underestimated. And it's not scientific, and I'm sorry it's not mathematical, but it's just in my heart.
This episode is brought to you by CDG Circles. Running a dealership today takes more than it ever has between new technology, regulations, and constant change. But the hardest part is doing it alone. I've been there. No one to call when things got tough, no place to ask what's actually working for you right now. Is this vendor legit? How would you fix this problem in your service department? And much, much more. And that's why I built CDG Circles, a new kind of peer group for top performing dealers. With Circles, you get a dealer group chat, structured sessions, real-time conversations, all with the full confidentiality, antitrust compliance, and a group of dealers who actually get it. Our goal is to end the isolation that costs dealers time, money, and clarity. We're not a 20 group. There's no travel, we're not retrospective, and we don't group you by brand. Circles is for dealers who are looking for in-the-moment insights. Almost like having a personal sounding board of top-notch dealers who are playing on your level. Over 1,000 dealers joined our original waitlist, and this month, we've officially opened up signups to additional founding members. So join us and be part of the first wave taking the car business back into our own hands. Join us at cdgcircles.com or click the link in the show notes below.
That's super cool. And tell me, what's right now important to you in terms of what are you working on right now in the big things? Is there a certain hire? Are you going through an acquisition? Right? Just to give us a high level overview of what's going on in your world nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. So I do think that, so yes, I am in some processes right now, literally formal processes to grow the business and make a few acquisitions. Obviously, you know better than anybody. Can't talk in specifics. I could talk in and around those things, but really excited about what I'm about to do. One of the situations is a lifelong dream, and to accomplish that dream and then to implement and execute on that dream so that it translates into a really unique, growing, vibrant customer experience for that brand. I definitely want to try to not be all over the place. I'm 56 now. I started the business, my previous business, when I was 40. I don't think 56 is old, but I don't know if I want to be on a gazillion airplanes all over the country all the time. And so I'll probably try to regionalize things in a few states. I think that makes
quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life. And then, we'll take it from there. But I definitely want to try to deliver to the marketplace something that is unique and authentic. Everybody says that, but I've done it before and I do have a plan and I'm excited about it. And it's a lot about making sure you're in the right communities, I love underperforming stores, by the way. I'm definitely not. And by the way, I've been on a few podcasts, some of which is in your group. And I never want to be perceived as the guy that badmouths the Publix because they're amazing and they've done great things. But I'm not going to be able to buy a business that has huge earnings and then just make it accretive to my earnings and just call it a day and tell that to Wall Street. And that's my story. By the way, it works for them and I applaud them. I'm not saying anything bad. What I'm saying is I like to buy broken things where I can add value. Yeah. And maybe where I'm familiar with the communities or close to the communities, and those kind of things. And if I can do that and have connectivity to those communities or areas in and around those communities, I think that's exciting. And of obviously brands that I'm either directly or tangentially familiar with.
Mm-hmm. So if anyone is listening to this and is considering going up market or is interested in it, like what's a message you have for that dealer?
I definitely think that the car business is not the car business. So if you go to the top of the food chain, by the way, top doesn't mean better or worse. I'm just saying luxury and exotic versus whatever. So if you're up here with, again, luxury, exotic, Bugatti and Ferrari and Lamborghini and Rolls and Bentley, obviously we all know that's different than, at the bottom, or not the bottom as in worse, but in mass market brands, they're definitely not the same. So I don't think like the giant, the giant, Nissan dealer is odd. And even if they're amazing and they've been in the business 50 years and they've made hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't know that they could really deliver the experience that a exotic and performance brand is going to require, because you have to like really get in there and do things that are, it's like saying, one is an Hermes bag and the other is a pair of Converse tennis shoes. They're just different. Doesn't mean that one is better or worse. It's a totally different animal. And I don't think those brands are really the car business. And then, obviously Porsche, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, that's in between all that stuff. So I think those brands, I think it's possible, but got to be careful with those brands as well, because those customers continue to be more and more discerning.
Many people on this podcast have mentioned the book Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah.
Have you read that?
Yeah. Well, I don't read books, by the way. Anybody that knows me, but I listen to books. I read table of contents, and I can make it like I do
it. I'm into it, man.
I can make it like I did read it. By the way, that's only because I can't read. Because remember, I learned through talking and communicating and questioning.
That.
So
how do you spend any potential possible downtime? Like, what do you do? Is there any form of entertainment, anything, any media you consume that's not like automotive? I'm curious what you do.
Sure. I listen. First of all, I hang out with my dog a lot because my kids are all gone. but no, I love comedy and, I love, all these, there's a plethora of all these shows and different things on TV, but, I love sports. I'm a basketball fan. I'm now an Arkansas fan because my man, John Calipari, is the head coach of Arkansas. And I definitely listen to podcasts. I'm selective. I'm overly inundated with too many politics, too much stuff. It's debilitatingly exhausting. But if you're not familiar with it, by the way, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, it's becoming exhausting. So I'm trying to lessen some of that, just for my mental health, and
smart,
and try to do more comedy. Try to listen to.
Yeah, it's really exhausting. I mean,
it's exhausting.
I find that like the more I scroll X, the more stressed I am. It's just like, it's too much. There's always something going on. And it's like the incentives are just so dysfunctional, right? Think about the incentives of being, like a online creator or whatever that actually relies on like YouTube income.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
oh my gosh.
What is that person's incentive? It's to get click. It gets crazy, the stuff. And you got to go more extreme to get more clicks. So yeah. I mean, it is exhausting. I agree with you. When you think about the economy and the industry at large, it seems like that you're pretty in tune with this world. And I find it all really interesting. What's your, again, as a fellow relatively kind of risk averse person, you could say, Doesn't mean you're not an entrepreneur. It just, you're more risk averse when it comes to, like you said, debt and stuff like that. What is your take on where the economy is headed? Of course, impact on automotive, on us. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. So I would say, don't want to be negative, but I would say I am concerned about inertia in general. Also, I follow cycles, and it just shocks me that we haven't hit one yet. Obviously we know the stock market, I haven't looked at it today, but call it at around 48,000. And the fact that it relies upon 9 stocks scares me. None of this is information that's new to anybody. However, I do think, as we've talked about on other shows, that, there's a whole generation of people in the workforce, a whole generation that have never operated during a recession. They think, oh yeah, times were tough during this or whatever. They have no idea. So what I'm trying to do is either surround myself and acquire brands that are sustainable, that are in it for the long haul, no matter what. I'm obviously, in my personal company, trying to be careful with leverage. I'm not scared of leverage, but I'm not going to go crazy with leverage. I'm going to equitize things as best as I can to protect in a downturn. And then, you want to make sure that you're in communities maybe that are less elastic for whatever reason. So we can look at various communities and what could happen and what might not happen. So I'm looking at all those things. And I also am going to just stay on theme here. I'm not going to try to compete with the Publix and their mission and what they're telling Wall Street. And by the way, I say God bless them for what they want to do. I think it's great. There's a place for everybody. And I fundamentally disagree with, even though I love, Aaron Kerrigan and Alan Haig and George Corollas and all the fabulous competing brokers and investment bankers in our business, Stevens Company and the others. I definitely think there's still room for, yes, large publics, large privates, medium-sized companies. And I strongly believe that niche auto dealers, call it from 2 to 10 stores, if they're doing something very special, not only will exist, but they'll thrive. They'll thrive. And I probably want to play in that 10 kind of stores environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I have spoken on the platform about just what type of stores are maybe more recession resistant, not recession proof. So I think it makes sense to think about that. I spoke recently about my purchase experience of a Lexus from a local Lexus dealer and Lehigh Valley Lexus, and how that was a really unique, just like bespoke experience that, I'm pretty sure they only own one store. I could be wrong there. But even if they don't, the point is that's an experience that's just going to be hard to replicate, at scale. Maybe you can, maybe they can try. But the point is, I'm very bullish on single store operators that operate that way. That's what I'm trying to say.
I agree.
And I've spoken about it. I've raved about it because it was, I don't necessarily perceive it as anything that requires crazy resources. They just handled every touch point really well. And that's why I would be a customer again. So I think to that point, I think if that's the type of operator you are, and I'm not saying you specifically, but a single point operator, if you really lean into the benefit of being a single point or the advantages and go more high touch, I think that's how you can differentiate and win.
I love that story. I 1000% agree with you. Love it.
And that is a way to end the podcast. Todd Blue, Lapis Automotive. Todd, thank you, my man, for coming on and for being vulnerable and real. This was super, super fun.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.